So Shaheen's deck is a Stoneforge Mystic deck that's Esper. We saw it yesterday. He has 4 Stoneforge Mystics. The black, of course, is for Inquisition of Kozilek, Thoughtseize, 2 of each, and Lingering Souls, mostly. He also has a main deck Vindicate. It's also interesting to note that he has a Caracas to be able to deal with Matt Costa's Vendilion clicks. Matt Costa is on a... looks like he's on a bug control deck. And we're going to start things off. Shaheen Soorani is on the play. Shaheen plays Inquisition of Kozilek. Matt Costa reveals Preordain, Spell Pierce, Liliana of the Veil, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Creeping Tar Pit, and 2 Polluted Deltas. Matt Costa's deck is very control-y. It's a traditional bug list, except for that he has only has 1 Pernicious Deed in the sideboard and none main deck, it looks like. So that's a little bit of a change from what I've seen. He also has 3 Wastelands. Shaheen has 1 Wasteland, is important to note. Shaheen debating what he's going to take here. There are many lines of play he can take. He already has a Jite and a Stoneforge Mystic in hand. So he's going to take the Preordain to be able to keep Matt Costa from digging any deeper and knowing what he has. Matt Costa draws a Ghastly Demise for the turn, which is a very good card for him because of the Stoneforge Mystic, which I imagine we will see this turn. Shaheen Soorani losing the first life. Matt Costa in the lead by 1. But Shaheen's gonna go get a Tundra and play a Stoneforge Mystic, probably going and getting a Batterskull. The reemergence of Stoneblade is very interesting to me. At the end of day 1, 3 of the top 5 players were playing Stoneblade of some kind or another in Legacy, and that was very interesting to me. I've never been a big fan of Stoneblade. I always felt like it was a deck that was 45% against the field, and if you wanted a deck like that, Rug Delver was about 50% against the field. Matt Costa's going to search for an Underground Sea. Yeah, Esper Stoneblade only has 10 players in the field with it, but 3 of them were doing very well. I saw a couple other players near the top tables playing either Esper or traditional blue-white Delver. There's Stoneforge Mystic. Core Artificer, probably one of the best Core Artificers ever printed. I would say at least top 3. It allows you to tutor up an equipment and put it in your hand, and then lets you vial it into play. For those of you that have played Standard, Modern, and Legacy, or not even Modern, it was banned in Modern before Modern became a format. It was very, very powerful card.
I think it might be the only Core Artificer ever printed.
It may be.
Certainly the best, though.
Certainly the best. At least top 3.
Yeah. So Costa's deck here, we saw it on camera once yesterday. It's really the kind of deck, as I think as you put it yesterday, it wins through frustration.
Bug tends to win through everyone being so tired. And
you feel hopeless. Eventually you get to the point where you're like, this is so hopeless. I will concede.
Right. Everyone has no hand and no board, but your deck has things like Life from the Loam,
right,
and Planeswalkers to be able to come back.
And then we saw Shaheen Soorani play Esper Stoneblade. He went 3 wins and a draw yesterday with Esper Stoneblade. Costa went 2-2 yesterday with his bug control deck, going, I believe, a full 8-0 with Delver. Which, for those of you who are aware, shouldn't be too much of a surprise coming from Matt Costa. So both players are playing Land Go for a bit here. We've seen a little bit of spells being cast. Definitely with something that favors Costa here. One of the things he needs to watch out for is that Shaheen's playing Esper Stoneblade, which means he has access to Lingering Souls. And Matt Costa, most of his removal is sacrifice-based. He has very little counterspell base. He has 1 counterspell proper,
right?
But not much, no dissipating or anything that, like the card Lingering Souls.
Yeah, he's fighting on a completely different level, which in this matchup is not too good because Shaheen has Lingering Souls.
Yeah, Lingering Souls is probably the most relevant card in this matchup. So Costa, at some point he's going to decide to start hitting with Creeping Tar Pit, but that's the eventuality here. He doesn't really want to get sorted, doesn't want to lose a land, so he's going to keep passing. If he can resolve a Jace, that'll be very strong.
Shaheen has 2 equipment in his hand. He already had the Jite, and he searched for the Batter Skull. There's another Stoneforge Mystic off the top for Shaheen.
Yeah.
Matt Costa still has the Jace, Liliana, and Spell Pierce that Shaheen knew about from the Inquisition.
Yeah, so he's going to cast the Mystic. I should correct myself earlier. Costa went 7-1 with Delver. He actually did drop his final Delver round. So Shaheen currently at 6th place in the standings.
He's going to go get a second Umezawa's Jite. Shaheen's hand has 3 equipment in it now.
Likely, I think this is the only equipment left in his deck.
Yes.
Then, which Costa should be able to figure out, because the second Jite is not particularly relevant here.
Right. Well, Matt Costa only knows about the 2 equipment.
Right.
Costa very good at dealing with creatures. I'm not sure how good he is at dealing with Batter Skull.
Right. I know this matchup definitely is in Shaheen's favor. The Costa's answers are a little ill-equipped to deal with Soorani's threats.
So Liliana is going to make Stoneforge Mystic hit the bin. Shaheen just checking for a Terminus, just in case. Probably wasn't going to cast it, but you never know.
So Shaheen has a few dead cards in this matchup. His Swords to Plowshares, which is a 4 of Terminus, are not particularly strong. The good part about his deck is that a lot of his removal are things like Vindicate.
Yes.
He does only play 3 Lingering Souls right now, but a lot of his removal can still be effective in this matchup, which
I
is
think
really
that the
nice.
Vindicate is actually a very important card in this matchup. He's has a lot of Ponder. He's 2 Ponders and 4 Brainstorms to be able to dig into it. It's the cleanest answer to a Planeswalker that he has.
Right.
Lingering Souls you can't ever count on. It's very good, but you can't exactly count on it, especially against Bug. I'm not sure if he knows that Matt doesn't have Pernicious Deed main deck.
Right, Matt's only main deck sweeper is he has 1 Damnation, and that's it.
After board, of course, his Pernicious Deed is going to be much more important for
Which
Matt
he actually
Costa.
only has 1 Pernicious Deed.
Yeah,
he
I
does
thought that was very interesting.
He does have Surgical Extraction, which will come in probably just to deal with Lingering Souls. Typically, though, a card I don't like to board in, but Lingering Souls is a very big problem for Costa.
Yeah, especially in Legacy, I think that the best way to deal with the best way to sideboard with Surgical Extraction is only to sideboard in Surgical Extraction against cards that are in the graveyard that do things while in the graveyard.
Correct. Yeah.
As opposed to trying to cut your opponent off of Brainstorms or Swords to Plowshares or things like that.
Yeah. Liliana, finding useless cards for both players to discard, really.
Yeah, Bayou and Swords to Plowshares. Shaheen's going to sacrifice a Flooded Strand here, going to 18. This may be leading to an end-of-turn Vendilion Click. I didn't see if it was in his hand. That looks like a scrub land to me.
Which, to be fair, in this matchup, Vendilion Click will probably target himself and not Costa, if that were to happen.
I think that that's a fair assumption. He does have a fairly clunky hand that he can put away one of the Jites.
Yeah, and then he can put away a Jite, and then he can find it again.
Draw a card, yeah. Essentially letting himself... Oh, he's going to Snapcaster Mage.
Sure, he'll snap a Brainstorm.
For Brainstorm with a fetch land up. That's also a pretty good play.
He has to assume at this point that Costa has a kill spell. The Snapcaster probably will not get the Liliana, which is fine. Alright, Costa's going to tap 5. We'll see what he's going for here. This is a very difficult matchup for his deck. He just, like I said, lines up on the wrong side of most of Shaheen's threats.
I noticed that Jerry just tweeted that he was 6-0 against Seachrome Coast decks. I think that's a little unfair to say because Brian Brunduin had 2 Seachrome Coasts in his 5-color Frights deck.
Yeah, I wouldn't really care. That's a little bit of a stretch, I would say.
Yeah, I think that he knows that that's a joke, but just the same.
Right, and we have okay, so he's going to Force of Will. Instead of casting the Force of Will, he decided to pitch the Spitch of Hell Pierce. Pierce will not find too many targets outside of
equipment. I thought that the Spell Pierce might be saved for the Batter Skull that he knew was in Shaheen's hand. That's going to be awkward for him to cast.
The thing is that Shaheen won't play it on 5. Shaheen will probably either play it off a Mystic or play it on some number like 9.
Right. Well, Shaheen knew that Matt had the Spell Pierce from the Inquisition on turn 1. And Matt knew that Shaheen had the Batterskull, so everybody knew what game was being played here.
Right.
There were no surprises between these two.
What Matt's plan of attack, I believe, in this matchup, and if someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe he's going to try to assemble Life from the Loam Wasteland to win this game. All his other methods of attack, Jace is a little doubtful here. Jace is obviously a very good card, but he can't really contain Lingering Souls or a lot of the other things that Shaheen does. The one thing that Matt can do that Shaheen can't really interact with is if he starts Loam Wasteland.
Yeah, Life from the Loam is a big part of the end game plan for Matt Costa in these sort of grind him out matches.
Right, especially pre-board. Post-board, both players have access to surgicals, so that may not be true anymore, but right now it certainly seems like that's what you do.
Attention Magic players, if you signed up for Legacy Winterbox number 1, please report to the open stage.
Taking a while to decide what to do here. There's the first Wasteland of the match.
Right, and I'm expecting Wasteland should feature very prominently. Now, basics count. Soorani does run 4 basics, 2 islands,
1 plains and 1 swamp.
So Matt won't be able to lock him out of the game. But if Shaheen does not draw all those basics, here we're going to see Intuition going for, I believe, Lingering Souls.
Probably going for Lingering Souls here, if it resolves. And it does.
It does. Matt doesn't actually play counter spells. He plays a counter spell, and
he has 4
spell pierce, 4th force.
But yeah, spell pierce would not have done anything here.
Right. So Lingering Souls, one of the bigger players in Legacy right here, as you can see. Just by intuitioning for 3 of them, you get 1 in your hand and 2 in the yard. It just gives him basically a way to put remember, all of Matt's kill spells are things that say target player sacrifices a creature. Lingering Souls is very good at putting out a lot of not very relevant creatures. He'll also usually be able to, so he'll try to attack down Liliana as well.
And this Liliana is still on the board. Shaheen is probably going to have to find the answer to this Liliana at some point. Otherwise, it's going to just take everyone's hand away. Everyone will be playing top deck mode, except for that Matt will have a Liliana and Shaheen will have nothing.
Well, it's going to be part of, like I said, I think his plan is still based around Life from the Loam, so Liliana will start being very abusive with that.
Yes.
Important to note that Shaheen is also playing 3 Jace the Mind Sculptor. So still a lot of Costa's trump cards outside of the Loam engine that Shaheen also has access to.
Shaheen flashing back one of his Lingering Souls, putting some spirits into play. Shaheen with a full grip that includes a Vindicate and a Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Right.
So long as Shaheen has mana, he will be able to play Magic.
Yep.
With lots of different options.
Yeah, and his spells, like, Costa's hand is probably full of a lot of kill spells and things that aren't really...
His deck is full of kill spells, things that aren't very good against Lingering Souls and Planeswalkers. Whereas Vindicate is very good. We're going to get 2 more Spirit tokens off of another Lingering Souls. That Intuition puts 6 power worth of flyers in the graveyard. It's a very powerful engine. This one's going to get Spell Pierced, though.
Well, actually, it puts 4 in the graveyard, and then it puts...
4 in the graveyard and 2 hands.
4 more in hand. It's 8. It's 8 power.
Yeah.
So that's Spell Pierce. He did, by being a little aggressive there, Shaheen did activate Spell Pierce that was in Costa's hand, which is probably not what he wanted to do.
Inquisition is going to see Marsh Flats, Force of Will, Jace,
Vindicate,
and Sword Plowshares, and he's got to take the Vindicate.
The bigger problem is now Matt has to think, how am I going to deal with 2 Jaces?
Yeah. Because Matt only has 1 to Legend Rule. I imagine he will play his Jace here, so that and get a Brainstorm out of it.
Yep, play his own Jace.
And then Shaheen will Legend Rule it later,
He'll force
it with one of the Jaces. So that Matt won't even get a...
and he's going to do discard, which will get the Marsh Flats. Pass the turn. So now Shaheen will slam his own Jace.
Right. I thought that he would have discarded the Swords to Plowshares there, actually. And kept the land.
He needs to make sure he has a way to deal with Creeping Tar Pit, I suppose.
Okay.
The land isn't particularly relevant here. Matt hasn't shown him Life from the Loam. The only reason you want to keep the land is to reset this Brainstorm. But I think right now it's quantity of cards over quality that Shaheen's mainly concerned about.
I would agree. Legacy is typically about, or has typically been about quality of cards.
Right.
Like show and tells, obviously. Force of will, 2-for-1s yourself, making the format much more quality based. But these cards like Lingering Souls and Planeswalkers coming back to the forefront. Oh, he's going to play an Innocent Blood to take care of one of the spirit tokens.
And he'll
Discard again.
Discard. The best of. I mean, in a Jace versus Liliana, Jace is going to win here, and Matt knows it. So the problem with this +1ing Liliana is it's almost helping Shaheen more than it's helping Matt. I believe he's +1ing it just so that it stays alive.
Yes. He's going to discard another Jace. That's the third one that we've seen. We have 3 Jaces on camera here.
All right, and so Matt with no other plays past the turn. Pretty. Like so the bigger issue is that Matt. A lot of Matt's cards just don't get as much value and don't do as much in this matchup.
Right.
Shaheen really threatening to put away the game off Jace.
Yeah, Matt no cards in hand. Shaheen with an active Jace and a creature, not looking too good.
Puts Liliana down to 1, passes the turn.
There's a picture of Jace the Mind Sculptor.
In all his abilities.
And all of his abilities. We looked at him yesterday as well. The +1 ability, often called Fate Sealing, but a little different. You can do it to yourself as well if you'd like to bump it up. +2, look at the top card of target player's library, and you may put that card on the bottom. There are a few things that are more...
See, right there. That's why he keeps the swords.
Yep. Fair enough. There are a few things more disheartening than when your opponent activates Jace for its +2 ability, looks at the top card of your library, and tells you can keep it.
Right.
Standard players, welcome to round 4. You have 50 minutes, you may begin.
Which, to be fair, might be what we'll see happen. So we might see... In Legacy, it seems oftentimes that Fate Seal never really comes up. Most decks, if you give them 4 brainstorms for free, will win the game.
Will win the game by itself. Yep.
Yeah.
The other thing is that Matt has an active fetch land to be able to shuffle away any card that Shaheen lets him keep. He's going to brainstorm though.
Right, so the reason you wouldn't Fate Seal is that Matt could, in theory, crack a fetch land, draw a Jace, Legend Rule your Jace, and then at least this way you've gotten a lot more value.
His hand is now Ponder, Force of Will, and Stoneforge Mystic, putting another force on top.
Now, does he still have any of his equipment left?
I don't...
It looks like he's brainstorm shuffled most of it away.
Yeah, he does not have anything in his hand.
But none of it's in the yard either, so he's just going to refine the old equipment.
Yes. So we're going to go get the Batter Skull most likely here. There's Shaheen again. Very intense. Friendly guy at the table. I've played against him a couple times. He's never sad or salty about the situation he's in. He's very calm and collected most of the time.
Yeah.
Attention Magic players, if you signed up for Commander number 8, please report to the open stage.
Sees a hand, sees the top of his library as a bunch of junk, decides to shuffle it away.
Commander number 7.
There's Batterskull from New Phyrexia Mythic Equipment. It's a living weapon, which means that it comes into play with a germ token attached to it. And the equipped creature has +4/+4 and has vigilance and lifelink.
Yeah, really a card that didn't see too much play outside of Stoneforge Mystic, at least in other formats. It was probably the card that got Caw-Blade banned. It pushed both of them over the top. I mean, Caw-Blade probably would have been banned anyway, but definitely pushed that deck
Definitely
well over
pushed
the
that
top.
deck way over the top. Yeah, the Caw-Blade was the best deck already, but Batterskull was the card. Much like Delver was the best deck already before Restoration Angel came out.
Right.
But Batterskull and Caw-Blade obviously to a much greater degree.
So my Costa wastelanding here, but still got to be really disappointed in the board. All right, Shaheen's deciding to lock this out here, so he's going to start with Fate Sealing.
Thinking about this one, so it's not over for Matt Costa.
Costa always has a fetch land. The good thing you can do is you can, if you're good, you can run a bluff here. You can look at the top card and tell them to keep it, and that will usually convince them to crack their fetch land. Yep, and Costa will do it too.
Let's see if he checks. Let's see if he wants to know what Shaheen gave him. Yep, he did. Wonder what it was.
Could really put your opponent on tilt. Look at it. It's Jace the Mind Sculptor. Checking it.
That's right.
Found out that he'd left that. I'd be like, oh, you got me good.
Got me good. Can't believe you got me. I'm not good enough to run that kind of bluff. I think I would just run it pretty straight.
Attention Magic players, Tim Boylatt, your commander pod is ready.
He's in the shuffle there, so he wants to give Matt Costas and trying to give himself a chance to draw a Jace here.
Yep,
He's just going to scoop.
So we're going to move on to game 2. Shaheen takes game 1 with threatening an active Jace. Matt Costa did not have much action going, didn't have an answer to Shaheen's Jace, plus remaining Lingering Souls.
Right. Like I said, Shaheen's threats answer. Matt's trying to be the answer deck, but really he has the wrong answers for a lot of Shaheen's threats. So when we look at post board, Matt gains Surgical Extraction, Pernicious Deed. He also gains, he could play, like he gains 2 Scavenging Ooze, which is a possibility. I mean, he probably does board those in to deal with Lingering Souls. Though, as long as Shaheen plays and flashes, casts and flashes them back while maintaining priority, it won't do much there. I think Matt boards them in an area because it gives him an alternate avenue of attack. One of the problems he's having is that the ways he wins, Liliana, Jace, they don't actually win in this matchup. So he may want to try to win with like Vendilion Clicks and Scavenging Oozes.
Which is going to be tough because Shaheen does have lots of elimination at his disposal. He has Swords to Plowshares. He can keep many of them in. He also has access to Dark Blast and Zealous Persecution out of the sideboard.
Yeah.
Although I would doubt he would bring in Zealous Persecution.
Not at all.
Yeah. Even though all of Costa's creatures, Snapcaster Mage and Vendilion
all 4 of them.
all 4 of his creatures have 1 toughness. I would doubt that that's coming in. What do you think about Shaheen Soorani possibly bringing in Sword of Feast and Famine?
Well, it's good if you want it as just another equipment. I think you'd bring it in because it's better than Umezawa's Jite.
I agree.
But that said, like, is it an amazing card? Well, no, not really. You need to have enough equipment that your Stoneforge Mystics have things to find.
So you probably take out the 2 Jites and put in the 1 Stoneforge Mystic. So
I may still keep a Jite as well. The other cards which he has to cut is he has some number of swords, or the Terminus certainly. I don't know how many things he wants to board in is I guess the bigger question.
That's true.
Probably 2 Spell Pierce will get boarded in.
Those are pretty much the only definites. He could bring in Inquisition.
It's possible. If he knows that Costa has a late game plan of Life from the Loam, he may bring in a Surgical.
Right. Although he didn't see that.
Right.
He can also reasonably assume that Surgical can hit a Wasteland or a Brainstorm. So if he's on that plan.
Right, and I think that's the danger. You don't really want to board in Surgical just to, hit someone's Wastelands. But if you do know, it depends how well versed he is in Legacy. If he knows that the Bug Control deck has a Loam finish to it, it's a much more defensible card. So still though, I think post-board Shaheen is an overwhelming favorite here.
I agree. The control elements in Matt's deck do not control the things that Shaheen is doing. They're controlling Rug Delver, mostly, and show and tell style decks.
Right.
And they have a very tough time dealing with Lingering Souls and Stoneforge Mystic, which are 2-for-1s against pretty much everything in Costa's deck.
Well, we're shuffling up here. Either way, these games will probably grind out. This is one of the slower matchups you can get in Legacy.
Yep. While Shaheen does have like a possible quick draw of turn 2 Stoneforge Mystic, turn 3 Batterskull, or turn 3 Lingering Souls, turn 4 Flashback Lingering Souls with some sort of other effect, they tend to drag out a very long time.
Right. So, let's see. In Matt's deck, I think, alright, he's going to lead out on Tropical Island. So yeah, we're going to have another slow beginning here, most likely.
Shaheen's going to ponder into Brainstorm, Land, and another card that I couldn't catch. Matt, among other things, has a Scavenging Ooze in his hand.
Okay, so he has chosen to go with that plan. It does seem like he wants. It's a good threat, I imagine.
Yep. Creeping Tar Pit is on the board.
And do we have a swords in Shaheen's hand? So has he kept them in?
I can't tell. Yes, we do. We have a swords in his hand.
So
we're gonna see his hand actually.
So
Possibly.
Matt will drop to 18.
It looks like he's got the Batter Skull in his hand also.
So he's gonna
hide some things in his library.
Matt's telling him to pause on the brainstorm. I think we're gonna see a pierce at the brainstorm. Oh, we'd actually like to see his whole hand. All right. Well, Matt, Shaheen's gonna pierce back. So we're fighting over this Thought Seize, I think. It's possible after all their spells are gone here that Shaheen may not have an actual card to take with Thought Seize, which would be a pretty good move if it happens.
I just received a list of players that are undefeated on the day that went 4-0 in Standard.
All right.
Among the names, Max Tietz.
Max Tietz,
the last invitational champion. Kenny Mayer.
All right.
Who is playing a red-green aggro deck. And, of course, Jerry Thompson. David Scharfman also on this.
Yeah, Scharfman typically piloting... he's a big proponent of piloting ramp decks. He been running 8 Titans, 4 Caverns ramp decks with no Zenith.
Yes. The other names are Adam Boyd, Lauren Nolan, Joe Urbanski, and Ryan Forsberg. For those of you interested at home to see who's undefeated on the day.
Sword of Feast and Famine is gotten by Stoneforge Mystic. Stoneforge Mystic is then hit with a ghastly... encounters a ghastly demise.
Yes, it faces a ghastly demise. Scavenging Ooze for Shaheen.
And just a ton of
and
swords.
That's going to immediately get sword.
For Costa, yes. Shaheen has double swords in his hand.
I think that's correct because, you know, you have so few ways for Costa has so few ways to actually
absolutely.
win.
You don't even think about swords.
So then you max out on as many effects as you can.
Well, Costa's tapped out. Shaheen's going to go get his win con. Well, that's going to get forced. He's going to try attempting to get a pile of Lingering Souls.
I actually think that's a little bit dangerous because Matt Costa has the surgical extraction that you can reasonably assume that Costa has. So if you go and get your Lingering Souls while you're tapped out, that's a fairly risky play in my opinion. So Life from the Loam,
getting nothing back and playing his last land. So Shaheen's given a green light to cast spells.
I personally love the play of casting Life from the Loam for 0.
Yeah,
so good.
Which was what just happened. So he's gonna, looking probably for a Wasteland or something
to bring back later on.
Yep. And
here is a big bad Batter Skull.
All right,
Costa's with a Germ token.
Gonna have trouble dealing with this.
Yeah, Costa hellbent now. Not many ways to deal with an active Batter Skull. There's one of them, though.
All right. Well, for now.
For now. The Batter Skull is still there. It's just has not currently killed him. Now, Batter Skull, you can pay 3 mana to return it to your hand. That ability does use the stack, however, so if Matt Costa had an instant speed disenchant or something thereof, he would be able to deal with the Batter Skull right then. Each player is going to discard a card. Costa is going to discard his Life from the Loam once again.
And then Shaheen will bring back the Batter Skull on unstep.
Shaheen now with another Stoneforge Mystic.
He said he's just going to cast the Batter Skull, which is correct too. So Matt is going to dredge Life from the Loam. He has 1 land in the yard. His other Scavenging Ooze now in the yard too. This looks really bad for Matt. I don't see how... he's really not drawing into much, and the Batter Skull will probably get him. He'll loam back. He'll make his land art for the turn. He'll loam back that Underground Sea.
Yeah, but that's not
probably...
really...
He's probably going to eat it with Liliana. Otherwise it's going to die,
not a ton
so
of,
sure.
options there. Delay the game for another 2 turns. There's a Stoneforge Mystic.
Stoneforge from Shaheen.
Presumably getting Sword of Feast and Famine.
I would think so.
Oh, a Jite. He must have the sword,
the sword
in
was
his
in
hand.
his, yeah, actually, the sword was in
I
his
suppose we knew that.
hand. Okay. That's fair. Yeah, Costa is really under the gun here. He could get a large pernicious deed going. Would probably, if he can get a pernicious deed on the battlefield, that would really help. He only has one after one, though, post-board.
The problem now being, though, that Batterskull can return to Shaheen's hand at pretty much any point because of the Stoneforge Mystic.
Right, so the ways that he can get it is he can Thought Seize it if he got it to return.
Yep.
He can also, if he has 2 kill spells, he can Diabolic Edict in response to a return trigger if Shaheen only has 3 mana. And then he can deed, or he can, with a deed on the battlefield, attempt to kill it. He doesn't really have much artifact removal. I'm not really sure. I guess that this is part of the problem. I don't really know how he gets rid of it.
Yeah, the Stoneblade decks were not a big part of the metagame for a long time.
Right.
So people sort of
He has
cooled off
4
on their
Pithing
artifact
Needles
hate.
in his board. That would do it.
That would do
He
it.
has one. I don't know if he's brought
I would
them in, though.
I would doubt he's brought them in. There are many targets for it in his deck: Fetch Lands, Stoneforge Mystic, all the equipment. But
Sure, it's not the worst board, but
I don't think that he
he
would
may have done it. I mean, he doesn't put any cards to board out, like Innocent Blood, which may not be very good at all here.
Jerry Thompson lost this round to Adam Boyd playing Merfolk.
So Adam Boyd is currently at X2, along with Jerry Thompson now.
Snapcaster Mage here getting a counterspell to counterspell Jace. He sort of telegraphed that he had the Stoneforge Mystic last turn when looking through his graveyard.
Right.
So Shaheen probably knew that.
A good draw with the Stoneforge Mystic
So-
there, but there's still this problem of Batterskull,
That's
which
right.
is...
Which he puts into play during Matt's upkeep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Matt Costa still not a ton of ways for him to deal with this current situation that he finds himself in.
Costa does have 1 card in hand, so Shaheen's debating whether or not he wants to go for it. I don't think he does. He wants to make sure that 3 mana for Batterskull is open for the rest of the game.
Yep. Don't want to leave a door open. Oh, maybe he does.
He's going to. All right,
Going to leave the door open.
To be fair, that chance is very small.
Sure.
And he's going to
Double block
with these
the
2
token.
creatures with the Creeping Tarpon, and
One is
of them
getting
gets
swords. Not looking good.
no.
So Matt goes to 23. Shaheen goes to 21 and gets 2 counters on his Umezawa's Jite.
And Matt with nothing happening right now.
Can you get Jite?
Umezawa's Jite.
Umezawa's
Ton of-
Jite is a real
Ton of
powerful
abilities,
card.
it does everything.
It does pretty much everything. Whenever it deals damage, combat damage at all to a creature or player, or to a planeswalker, you put 2 charge counters on it, and then you can remove a charge counter to do one of the following. The equipped creature gets +1/+1. I'm sorry, the equipped creature gets +2/+2. Target creature gets -1/-1,
one's probably the
or
one.
you gain
Yeah.
2 life.
So the -1/-1 probably is the most important one.
Yep.
Uh,
And Shaheen with an army of with a handful of equipment equipped to a germ.
Yeah.
Is going to take this one down. Matt seeing the writing on the wall that he's got no way to come back. Shaheen Soorani wins 2-0 over Matt Costa, playing
Is that
Esper
2-1?
Stoneblade.
X2 and 1. Yeah, the joke with the gain 2 life ability is that you really